Alright, for this video I'm going to be rebuilding a stillaire RDA. It's a clone, but just consider it a stillaire. Previous video I just did, I showed how I make quad twisted Kanthal. So it's 4 pieces twisted together, 28 gauge Kanthal. I just made a dual coil for this earlier, but it came out to 1.6. After I used it for a little while, I checked it. It was it's not 1.6, 0.16. It went up to 1.17 ohms, which is I'm using Sony VTC4s. It's probably not advisable, but it's within the range to use it. It's just too hot for my likings. There's no point to really be that low. I want to have it closer to 2. So I'm going to rebuild this one and show you how I do it using this quad twisted Kanthal, and also like for example on even the stillaire, the post holes are not super small, but they're not very, they could be bigger. So to fit 2 strands of these through the positive center post probably isn't going to happen because it's a lot thicker now since it's 4 times twisted. Regardless, I got in the habit of using like a continuous piece most of the times on my builds, which I like. So I'm going to go ahead and show how I'm doing this. Like I said, it's 4 times twisted Kanthal. I'm using a syringe needle from what I use to fill my fluid. Not sure the exact gauge. It's like if you look at like a filler bottle, you can kind of compare them. It's a bit thicker than that, so somewhere around that lines. I'm going to go ahead and go. I did 5 wraps last time. That was with dual coil that came out to 1.6, 1.7. So I'm going to go ahead and go 6 wraps this time. So what's kind of cool with this method too is you don't have to waste any Kanthal, except the very ends you trim off for the legs. You can take the whole strand. I've got a piece left over here. It's long enough. So I just need a little bit left over for my leg, for my first leg, for the first negative post. And I'm going to go ahead and start wrapping. Now this Kanthal 4 times wrapped twisted is a lot thicker. It's in a way it's a little easier to work with and bend. Harder to bend, but easier to keep in place. So I'll go ahead and doing 4, 5. There's my 6th bend. I'm getting it, as close as together as I can. Try to push it down a little bit, and once I get it built or onto the RDA, I'm gonna fine tune it all. So there's my 6 coils. Alright, so now this one has a bit of a kink in it that I'm going to try to straighten out because that might be problematic. I'm going to just attempt to do this without cutting anything until I'm ready to cut it. So it's not a big deal, but you don't have to waste any Kanthal this way. Not that it's expensive, but maybe you're using G-Plat or something where it's a lot more money. So first I'm going to get my negative side in. Now, let me move the camera instead of trying to hold everything up here. And do a bit of zooming. Seriously, that's as far as I can zoom. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and get actually the center, the long strand. I'm going to put in the center positive post first. Just make sure everything's opened up all the way. And it's a snug fit, but it goes in relatively smooth, as you can see. Alright, now I have a small leg for that negative post, but it makes it pretty easy, actually having it really short, so I don't have to screw up my coil doing this. And I'm going to put the needle back through just so I don't fuck the coil up too much. Here goes my screw. Okay, so I'm in. Good. Alright, so I'm going to get it kind of approximate into place. And sorry for these shitty angles. Okay, so I got it. That's about good. Now I'm going to tighten down my negative. Not over tight, just kind of snug it because I'm going to be adjusting a little bit. And the positive. All right, so there's the easy part. And at this point, I can already just turn on my ohm meter and see I'm at a 3.1. 0.31, sorry. And so yeah, I want to shoot for around 2. So do another 6 wrap coil. Before I do that, I'm going to straighten this out a little bit, but I'm going to, of course, go back and adjust, fine tune these, like I said. Let's try to get that right where I want it. Okay, so now is the little trickier part. It's not that hard though. Get that center post a little bit snug there. So now what I got to do is wrap this coil from here and just kind of like feed it through around and then just start pulling pretty tight on it. Put a lot of pressure. Sometimes it's easier if you grab your pliers to pull on this. Get it nice and snug so there's right amount of distance. And you want to be careful if you're using a needle, you don't stab yourself, obviously. I don't even know why I'm saying that. If you're that dumb, you shouldn't be doing this. But second one, as I wrap it, I'm kind of like just snugging it up as much as I can and using pressure on it, just pulling to keep it as tight as I can. Okay, number 3. For each time I wrap, I'm just using my fingernail to like push the coil nice and tight together. Number 5 and 6. Okay, so now I got my 6 wraps. Kind of pull a bit. I'm trying to straighten that out a little bit so I can feed this leg through. And what I do is I trim the leg pretty short so I don't have to bend the shit out of the coil to get it in through the second negative post. Let's go ahead and trim this about like there. And I think it's easiest for me to just use needle nose pliers to kind of like, I'm going to pull this needle out just for a second to get that leg through. This one's being stubborn, but get it through that post, and there we go. Now I'm going to get my needle back in there just to keep the shape of my coil, which is not going as smooth as normal, but it's normal when I'm making a video. Okay, so let's get this guy through. Now I can grab it from the other side. Now I'm going to hold that needle in place, pull really tight on that leg to really tighten up the coil around the needle. So now it's looking pretty good. It tightens down just a little bit, not too much, because I still want to adjust it a little bit, but get it snug. Get my coil kind of into place where I want it. That looks good. And the rest is easy from here. It's the same as building any other coil. You just tighten the shit down. Okay. So hopefully I'm closer to 2 now. It's reading at 1.8. Not a big difference in 1.6, but it's better. One thing I like about this too is with 6 coils, it's more surface to heat up the wick, and I'm hoping that has a better result. Alright, so now just clean this thing up. I'm going to trim my legs of the excess off. Notice on some RDAs, after I clip the legs off like that, I can tighten it again. It can use a bit more tightening on the screws. This one seems to be fine though. Alright, now I'm going to snug it up. Just careful not to over tighten where you break the coil. I've done that too, but it should be snug. Go back in there and do whatever kind of fine tuning you have to do. Pull this one over a little bit. Actually get it pinched together a bit more. So this is pretty low still, like I said. I was hoping to get closer to a 2, but it's 1.7. It's probably going to go closer to 1.8 after I wick it and adjust the coils, I'm hoping. And of course, I'm using a Meraxis mod. I did put a magnetic switch in today, which helps a little bit with the voltage drop, but there is some voltage drop in this thing. There's a spring at the top too for the. Let me take a vape on this before I move on. All right. So now let's throw this on my mod. And let's get a close-up of it real quick. Let me put the manual focus on because this is fucking lame with autofocus. There we go. See, that second coil is not as straight as the other one, but I'm going to fix that now. First, let me pulse it. And I got to change angle so I can see what's going on. Let's put it back to autofocus. So I got one burning a little faster than the other one. So now I'm going to try to kind of squeeze those together now they're nice and hot. And it's looking decent. I'm going to straighten it out still a little bit. These things get fucking hot fast, so obviously be careful. Let's give that a try. Now it's looking good. Burning from the inside out, no hot legs. All right, there we go. I'm gonna wick this guy up just with some cotton. Normally I go wash my hands before I do this. They're not dirty, but I do have, I don't know, I usually wash them first before I put the cotton on, but for the sake of making this video quick as possible, I'm going to go ahead and do this wicking really quick as well. You can always re-wick it later. Now, wicking, I've found how you wick it is also going to make a big difference on how it's going to work, how well your device is going to work. It's always tricky to find like that perfect width, you know, so it's not too tight, not too loose. And I mean, this is, like I said, it's lower than I hoped for it to be. What did I say, 1.8. I'm going to check it again after I wick it. I'm going to check it again on the ohms reader. And it's a good idea after you've fucked with the coils a little bit to adjust them, to be on the safe side, check it a couple times to make sure everything's still good. And obviously use the right kind of battery. I hate trying to wick small coils, but that went relatively smooth so far. Okay, so I got my first one. And this is one thing with wicking, I'm still trying out a lot of different ways till I find my favorite. But as a rule of thumb, I've realized just not too thick, not too thin. Find where it gets kind of snug usually is the best. I am doing this in a hurry too, so could be better. And that's okay. It's good for the sake for this video, just so I can put it together and give it a vape. I like to have enough to tuck quite a bit under, because at low ohms, it really goes through the juice fast. And this is my quick, easy method. Just tuck both ends under the coil. The stillaire I like, but it's really kind of, I found it kind of finicky on builds. With the right build, it works nice. When the wick isn't so good or the build isn't ideal, it's not that impressive. Okay. So what I found too is just kind of get a little bit absorbed and just hit it real quick. Fire it real fast, and it kind of sucks in the juice almost right away. Give it another nice and saturated. Should turn the fan off, it's easier to see, but oh well. Okay, so I'm happy enough with this for now. I've got the air holes pretty much almost wide open. This thing is ready to go. We'll give it a try.